What's up and welcome to Artism Rules, the YouTube channel, the podcast, whatever you're listening and watching this. I just want to welcome you. My name is John Mediana. I've been a creative director since MySpace. And man, I was wrestling with this content today and this week, and actually the past 2 weeks, if I could be really honest, because I was going to make a bunch of videos and I had already written down the synopsises and titles. And I was like, I'm going to take this journey through YouTube and I'm going to, and then I had to pause and stop and I had to rethink things and really just consider the cost, right? The cost of not just the production of my time or all those things, but the cost of staying true to creativity, to stay true to artistry here. And what I didn't want it to become is this overproduced, overpolished kind of concept of making videos and just feeding the whole, dopamine, visual, and all those things. I really wanted to, as an artist, lay out the context and content and the meat of those things. So I'm sort of pivoting right now, and it's okay. And I think today is going to be really refreshing to you as an artist, that it's okay to pivot, that it's okay to experiment on things and to explore. Now, this whole video is not going to be perfect, right? And I think that's one of the principles here that I want to talk about. So this video is all about the art of being low key. And to me, as an artist, especially when you're first starting, you are looking for your big break, right? You're investing your time in creativity. Maybe you're a musician, a painter, a writer, a cinematographer, a videographer, a photographer, right? If you're like me or anything like me, you want your work to be super meaningful and you want people to enjoy your work, and fulfillment really does happen when someone could watch your content or look at your painting or listen to your music and feel something. And I don't know if you ever felt that before, someone watching your video in front of you and they're just watching, and you're not watching the video, you're watching them respond and react to it. And, you kind of see oh, did this move them? Did they enjoy it? Did they laugh? Did they cry? Did they, how did they respond? And I think as an artist, we chase after that feeling, right, of satisfaction, of is my work valuable? Is it meaningful? And I struggled with that for a long time, when I first started. I'm a recovering people pleaser, but I recognize where that roots came from, where that stemmed from. And it stemmed from, growing up in an Asian home where I wanted to please my parents. I wanted to please my teachers. I wanted to please leaders and people in my life. I just wanted to win and just feel that, that pride and that proudness, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I am saying that there is a root cause that's really unhealthy as a creative and as an artist to chase after that, those moments, because artistry is really about the process, the creative process. And that's something that I had to learn over the years, of what brings me to do the work, what makes me feel alive, what makes me come alive. And it is the creative process, the wrestling with ideation, the wrestling with, should I do it this way or that way? The ideation of I have this vision, this outcome, and putting my hands to work to achieve the end goal, and finding things throughout that process that I would never found on a storyboard or in the writing process. That's exactly how I felt when I wrote this book, Artism Rules. I started with this idea in mind of how do I pour the principles that I've learned through the creative process over the 20 plus years that I've been doing this into this book. And I think one of the things that I've learned from art school in 2005 when I went to the Art Institute, my art teacher, actually my mentor, the first things that he taught me was you got to know the rules before you break them. And I think, number one, that revealed some things that were really important to my creative process. The first question was, there's rules? What do you mean? I thought creativity was just this fluffy outer space like vibe, and we're just creating out of nothing, and we're creating things, and you can't put rules to creativity. I was like, such a amateur hour moment for me, as when I first started out as a creative, is that there are rules. Like, no, I'm a rebel. I'm a creative rebel. Like I'm gonna break the rules before I know them. Like there are no rules. You can't put me in a box. And that was such a funny. I look back at it and I'm like, wow, that was such a immature mentality, because there are rules to creativity. In fact, there's a story in the book that I talk about putting rules, and creativity happens when you're putting boundaries, because you get to play more. It forces creativity. It actually inspires more creativity when you have rules in there. And for instance, I have a story when I first started getting into directing music videos early on, and I wanted to challenge my creativity in different ways. So I learned in art school, hey, do a photo shoot or do a video where you're just using one lens, like a prime lens, or use only one angle, or use one tool, and try to tell a compelling story with that tool. Maybe when I was working for one of the largest agencies, and one of the challenges was like, how do I tell a compelling story in 7 seconds or less? Those are really challenging as a creative, because it actually has to expand your creativity a little bit. You have to be more creative when you could apply boundaries and rules into your creative process. And I see the best work that I've ever done and ever collaborated with others by having rules in place. And those rules created, again, just this opportunity to think even bigger and come up with more solutions to problems. So one instance, I remember filming directing a music video, and I chose to just use a 50 millimeter Nifty 50. I think it was like $150 that I got off like Best Buy. And I was like, I'm just going to film this whole music video with this one lens and see what we could do. And with a prime lens, the difference between a prime and zoom is a zoom, you could zoom in from any direction, and you could kind of like stage your shot. But with a prime lens, you have to actually physically move yourself, into those shots. And I was like, I'm going to use a prime lens, and I'm going to shoot this whole thing handheld. So I really wanted to take the opportunity and challenge myself. And that video has done hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. And I could put the link in the description below so you could check it out. But I was wanting to have these challenges because like it just makes you a better creative. So today's topic that I want to talk about is this, the art of low key. And I think today in the creator economy, there is unhealthy pressure that is so heavy to build a personal brand, to make as much content as possible, to make, to just blow up and get views and get followers and all those things. And I'm not completely against that, but one thing I do struggle with as an artist is that, well, if I'm creating content, when am I going to make the art? If I'm doing these things, like I'm just adding to the algorithm, and I'm now chasing after volume and views and blowing up. And I feel like as an artist, as a creative, that really shouldn't be our MO. Our motivation should be the creative process. There's been many years, where I just wanted to hide. I wanted to be a digital ghost. I wanted to not feel the pressure of having to build a personal brand or a brand. And so I spent so many years behind the scenes. I just, maybe it was because I grew up very shy, and I didn't, I grew up in a quiet mentality of don't be too loud, don't be too noisy, all those things. But also I just wanted space to play. I wanted space to create, and I didn't want to attach that to something that's now a requirement. I remember the first feeling I got from that, because when I was about 20, years old, or 2020, maybe I was 21 years old. I can't remember. It was so long ago. 2006, maybe 2007. I opened my first warehouse with my name on it, and it was a media company that I started. And in this warehouse is a multimedia warehouse in Walnut, California. And I was doing photography. I was doing videos. In the back of the warehouse, we had screen printing. So I was really involved into making t-shirts and merchandise for bands and organizations. And I was really exploring and experimenting creativity. And I remember that year was one of the hardest years because I was also going to art school at the time. I was also interning at a local church, and I was also trying to run this business. And I just remember just being young, excited, creative, and energetic. And I didn't sleep because I just had so many thoughts, and I had a million ideas, and I thought sleep was like, oh man, if I'm sleeping, I ain't creating. But I remember that first year in business and how much of a struggle it was, because once you tie money to a creative act, once you tie some sort of, value to that, or an exchange of value, it fundamentally changes everything about the creative process. And I remember, having to pay the bill. I remember having to pay rent every single month. And for a creative, I was just like, well, I just want to create. I just want to do things with my friends. I want to do things with cool people. I want to do dope stuff. And most of the times, that didn't tie to any finances, right? Like in the beginning, I just loved creativity so much that I would do things for free, and I would just give away my creativity because I was in the learning process. I was like, I really want to get better at my craft. I want to experiment. And then after that year, I failed. I shut the business down, and I just realized how hard it was and how difficult that was. And I just felt so exposed. I carried shame. I was depressed. I was like, man, did I fail at this? Like, I can't be a business person. Maybe I'll just like get a job. Maybe I'll work for someone, which I had to do. And then I remember just a year after that, leaning into my creativity and actually finding out what I love to do and who I love to work with. That was like the first year I've made like 6 figures as a creative, just doing what I love, directing music videos, doing YouTube for other artists, and just producing things and enjoying the creative process, like finding joy back into the work that I get to do. And I remember sitting at a coffee shop with a buddy of mine who is an artist and still is an artist, and he's phenomenal. Shout out to James Peck. Love you, brother. He sat me down at a coffee shop one day, and he felt the weight that I felt of being just so depleted, so tired, just so lost really in the creative process. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? What's my purpose? What am I here for? And just one question always stuck with me. And the question was, well, what makes you come alive? And that really challenged me as a creative, because as a recovering people person, I wanted to show the value of who I am to people and get that feeling every single time. It was like a dopamine hit of like someone responding to the videos that we create. How many views can we get? How we could, use YouTube as leveraging visibility and awareness to brands and all those things. And when he asked me that question, I really struggled with the answer. I was really searching in my heart, like, what do I do? Like, what does make me come alive? And I had to think about it. And I had to kind of reverse engineer those things. And it wasn't the feeling of how someone responds to the content that we produced. It was really what made me come alive was making the content with friends that were on the same mission, and we were all working together collaboratively, getting to an end result, a finished product, and being in the editing room all night long, no sleep, day after day, tweaking and playing with color grades, playing with sounds, just playing with different shots and producing content together. That was the time where I felt so alive, just engulfed in the creative process. And today, the toxic feeling, the unhealthy feeling that you might be feeling, that I've felt in the past, was to keep up with making content and ideating and feeding the algorithm and feeding that feeling of like, well, everyone is telling me that I need to make more content, that I need to start being more consistent and start showing up online and sticking to a brand and all those things. And what is my brand and what content should I create? And I don't want us to get trapped in that idea, because sometimes it just suspends. For me, what I learned is that when you build a personal brand early, you're building a brand before you become an artist. And an artist is different, because your artistry is you being intentional about the choices that you make and the canvas that you're putting paint to and the video that you're creating. And you've developed a style and a voice and a look and a feel that is consistently showing up in the work that you're doing. I still have color grades and effects that I've learned from MTV TRL in 2004, that it's still embedded inside of my creative process. And I still use a lot of those techniques that I've learned in my tool belt when it comes to cinematography and filming and directing and all those things in the creative process. So like those things can't help but to show up in the work that I do. And I remember friends after videos that I've produced, they literally would tell me like, John, I know you produced this one. I know you're the one behind this because you have a signature look, you have a signature style. And as a starting creative, maybe you're finding your artistry, maybe you're finding the creative process, and you're struggling with, the idea of keeping up with the content and trying to find your voice and testing things out and being afraid of not being good enough. And maybe your content doesn't look as great as people that are doing it full time, or, they have a career in this. And I just want to detach you from that right now, because the idea is like, don't build a brand before you become an artist, and be a digital ghost. I remember back in the day with MySpace, YouTube, Facebook, not Facebook, but we would create like accounts. I would create accounts without my name on it just to put work up there. And I would create YouTube channels just to put work on YouTube channels without my name on it, because I just wanted to experiment. I wanted to explore. I wanted to not attach my name or things, because I didn't want the feeling of having to keep up with something. And I didn't want the feeling to be stuck in arrested development as a creative. And I wanted the freedom to explore, the permission to just test things out and try new things as a creative and find that style, find that voice. And I think that's the most important stages of being a creative and being an artist, is having room and permission to be bad, having permission to explore and experiment and find things that you enjoy, find things that you like as a creative. And I just feel like in those times I was a digital ghost, because I just love being low key. And even today, like, I don't talk about a lot of the projects I've worked on. Number one, because they're tied mostly to NDAs, but also I don't want to celebrate milestones and stuff like that. But for me, I don't want to feel like those are trophies that I'm hanging and like, oh, look at the work that I've done. Oh, I'm so awesome. I remember a quote that I read in a book a long time ago, that a good artist will go and talk about their work. A good artist will promote themselves. A good artist will go out there and tell people, look at my work. How awesome is that? But a great artist will master the process, continue to make work, and other people will tell that artist that their work has made impact in their life. They'll actually tell the artist, man, I started following you. I started watching your stuff. I started learning. You actually inspired me to become an artist. You actually inspired me to make more content. You actually inspired me to think outside the box. And that's what I believe for all of us, to become great artists, to become great creatives. And I don't want to get caught up in the trap of promoting and building a personal brand and all those things. I believe your brand starts to build when you start creating more and you find your artistry and you find your voice and you find your creativity, and your brand just starts to evolve. Your brand just starts getting out there and people start finding you. You know, like the people that love you will find you, and you got to build opportunities for them to find you by sharing your work and sharing the things that you enjoy and sharing your process with people, especially in the AI era today. Like everything is perfect. Every piece of content I see, like I'm just like, that's AI, that's, you know. And true artists, I think this is the greatest time that we're living in as artists, because it exposes artistry, it exposes creativity. Like I believe AI is going to actually expose the real artists that are using it as a tool. And it's okay if you're a purist too. You're like, dude, I'm totally against AI, anti-AI. I have a lot of close friends that are anti-AI. I have a lot of friends that are like pro AI, and that's all they do all day, every day. And I'm very neutral about that, because I just see it as a tool. There are some negative, obviously, effects in the environment, but I don't want to go into that. That's not this kind of video of the environmental effects of it and the cost of AI and all the data centers. I'm not going to talk about that, but I do want to talk about you as a creative. I want to talk about just what inspires you, what makes you come alive. The same question that my friend asked me is, what makes you come alive? And if you're feeling the weight and pressure of having to create content to keep up with the algorithm, to achieve numbers and achieve followers, I just want to encourage you. And I want to challenge you to detach yourself from the numbers and the metrics and all those things. I think that a lot of that stuff is really unhealthy for our creative soul. As a creative, I believe that we should find joy in the creative process. And if you don't have joy in what you're doing, it's going to be really tough. When I look back at building the business in my early 20s, the joy was stripped away because I had to exchange that for paying bills. And I literally felt, when I shut that company down, that business down, I didn't want to touch another camera. I didn't think I was going to continue in creativity. I thought I was just going to get another job and just be part of the system and be like, maybe this isn't for me. And then later in life, I realized that I can't help but to create. I'm designed to create. I'm designed to collaborate with others and to produce things that make meaningful work exist in the world. And it was challenging. It was a struggle, and it was something real. But I just want to be completely honest as a creative that you're going to have ebb and flows. And feel like you're not good enough, your work's not good enough, you're not as good as other people. And I remember when I was in film school, the first thing my editing teacher taught me was, you're not gonna be the best editor or cinematographer. And I was kind of like, well, challenge accepted, I will be the best. No, there's always going to be someone better than you. There's always going to be, and that was a hard truth that I had to learn, that there is always going to be someone more creative, that has a better process, that has a better system, that has a better eye, has better editing skills, editing chops than me. So what does that mean for me? All right, do I just quit? Do I just, because I'm not achieving greatness, I'm not achieving becoming the best version of myself? I feel like that's a treadmill that is really unhealthy and toxic to our creative soul, because the thing is, like, you're designed by a creator that has made you and gave you a specific story and a unique life that nobody else can live, that needs to be told in a way where you can choose a medium, whether that's painting, writing, songwriting, artistry, musicianship, photography, cinematography, whatever your medium is, that you go find that thing that brings you life, that makes you come alive, that makes you feel that you exist in the world, and find a corner of the internet where you can share your scraps, where you can share your stories, where you can share those things that make you come alive. Because you'll be surprised that people that raise their hand and say, I love your work, will find you. And they're so, there's gonna be trolls online. I can't tell you how many people comment on some of my content and leave terrible, nasty reviews. And I'm just like, okay, like, you don't know my story, and that's okay. People judge books by its cover. Literally, like, people are judging my book by its cover, and they're like, it's AI. I'm like, dude, it's not AI. It's not about AI taking over. It's about your creative soul coming alive. And I hope that this video encourages you and inspires you to tap into your creativity, detach yourself from those voices of not good enough or having to make more content, feed the algorithm, blow up online, go viral. Like, I just think that is the weakest frequency that we could be living in as creatives, is to feed this virality mentality and start doing things that do make you come alive in your creativity, and money will be the byproduct of it. And a lot of us might be struggling, but the thing is, like, you might be in a season where you're funding the dream. Maybe you're working a full-time job and you're doing your artistry, right? And that's the most important thing. I remember working 9 to 5, but the most important moments of my work was the 5 to 9. What I did between 5 to 9 o'clock at night and beyond, even staying up all the way to like 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning just on the craft and going back to work to fund the dream. Those are seasons that I will never regret. Those are seasons that molded me and shaped me into the creative I am today. So I just want to encourage you, if this video has done anything at all, I hope that it encouraged you from an honest and real place, that creativity is a process and you're in it, and that you don't have to worry about the views or the subscribers or the followers. Just focus on the craft, focus on the things that make you come alive, that brings you so much joy. Because I'm telling you, like, the more you do that, the more you master the creative process, the more you master just making things, you begin to live out your purpose and what you've been designed to do. Okay, so if you haven't got the book yet, Artism Rules, 10 Irrefutable Principles of being creative in the AI era. You get it on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. I hope it inspires you. It is a labor of love. I've been writing it since 2018, but I put a lot of my 20+ years of experience inside of this book, and I know it's going to inspire you. And if you can't afford it, shoot me a DM. I will send it to you for free so you can download it. Or listen to it in an audiobook, because I have it on the website, artismrules.com. But thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being here. And I mean, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of these types of videos. I don't want to over edit or feel like you're hitting dopamine hits. I really want to focus on the context and content and the meat of what's behind the brand and what's behind the thought process of being artistic. So thanks again. Like, subscribe. It's kind of funny to me. Like and subscribe, smash that like button. But go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know if this helped. And I appreciate you, and on to the next video.